So, what is up, everybody? So, I've had a couple of people ask for tips of how to fly in Ravenfield. Now, I kind of understand this because it's not incredibly easy to learn. Now, one of the most important things is learning to use WASD. These things are going to become incredibly handy for tight turns, learning how to go down, up. It's incredibly helpful. Now, one of the biggest things I would recommend is learning, so pressing C will allow you to go into third person mode. And it is one of the best ways to learn the size of your airplane. Now, the reason learning the size is important is so you can do barrel rolls and know exactly where you're going to be able to do stuff. So, like being able to go under bridges, being able to do many tricks to outmaneuver the enemy. Learning how big your plane is absolutely important to that. Now, helicopters, on the other hand, are a little bit harder to initially learn, but they become one of the most important things. Now, what you're going to want to do is hold up on W when you're going, because it'll keep your... So I'm letting go of W, and you can already see that I'm losing altitude. So you're going to want to hold down W unless you're landing, and I cannot stress this enough. WASD will help you so much with flying, and I'll show you some custom vehicles too. Now, the reason it is so important to learn is because of bombing runs. If you can learn how to stay in a similar place without having to fly back around constantly, it will help you immensely. It is one of the best things to learn early on in Ravenfield is how to fly properly and do. Now, pretty much every helicopter is gonna fly similar, such as the Blackbird and the attack helicopter, all of the base, normal, the ones you get with the game. All of these fly relatively similar, except they do have a bit of difference in mobility. So as you can see, this one doesn't move as fast, and it's got carrier spots and so and so. Now, the thing about this one is it does not gain altitude quickly, but it loses it very quickly. So one of the biggest things about learning with the Blackbird is simply learning how to quickly gain altitude while slowly losing it is one of the biggest things you need to learn with the Blackbird. Okay, so I was landing the helicopter, and I don't know how I managed to pull it off, but I managed to get it at this angle. So one of the biggest things you'll notice is speed differences, and you can also see the wing flap, which helps with mobility, and it's very cool to learn about this stuff. Now, one of the biggest things is you'll notice right above my altitude, you'll see my speed. Every single vehicle has a different speed. Now, the bomber plane, for example, has a very low speed because it's a bomber plane. It's meant to go slowly. Now, something like an A-10 mod or supersonic aircraft is going to move a lot faster. And I recommend learning with the buzzer, which is the small plane. Reason I recommend learning with it is because you'll learn timing. So I have the A-10 Warthog mod installed. Now, this plane is fast. I do not recommend trying out with this plane, and I accidentally hit my wing against the deck. You don't want to be doing that. Now, this plane is extremely fast, but it can do some incredibly tight turns. Now, I don't recommend starting off with this one because you will be crashing constantly. Now, it does have a bunch of different weapons, but you can try those out for yourselves. Now, one of the biggest things is simply learning the size, because this is a different size than the buzzer. And if you're able to learn the size, you can stay near the water, you can do a whole bunch of things with speed that you normally couldn't do with the buzzer. Now, these little planes they're very small, and they don't do a ton of, damage. They're not super effective. But the cool thing about them is they're they're very light, and they have a very easy, you can control them very easily. So they're quite good for learning because they're small enough that you can get under gaps and, you can really, really start to learn how to fly with these things. And now this behemoth of a plane is probably one of the hardest mods in Ravenfield to fly. Not only is it a pain to get off the deck, but the reason it's so hard is because of this multi-control system. So your mouse, instead of being for up and down for the plane, this controls the whole thing, and then you rely on all your buttons and everything to keep everything else running smoothly. This plane holds, I believe, it holds, I believe, like 16 soldiers, and as you can see, that the guns firing them actually causes you to slow down. Now, one of the biggest things to learn is how to drive. Now, it's a massive, massive plane, but it has so much reward to being able to use it. Simply the fact that it can take out entire aircraft carriers. Now, it's a very slow and heavy plane, so it's going to take a huge amount of time to learn how to use it. But I would say these are some of the absolute best mods to learn how to become extremely good at flying in Ravenfield. Have a good day, everyone.